So I notice every single time I get on the mat, sometimes I go back and I watch and I always say, okay, so I'm not gonna say that today. I'm gonna be aware of my habits and start in a different way. So we're gonna start in hero's pose if that is comfortable for you. Remember, you're placing your block on either setting where you can stack up 2 blocks in between your inner ankles. You're bringing your knees all the way together and you're sitting back down on the block. I usually put my block to the medium setting. And then just glance down at your knees and make sure that they are in line with one another. And hi Jess, welcome. Just grab yourself a strap and a block and we're starting in hero's pose. And if you guys aren't comfortable in hero's pose, you can sit cross-legged instead. So just take a moment in hero's pose to establish your foundation. That means everything that's touching the ground. So just glance back at your feet and make sure all of your toes are facing straight back behind you. Press down through the tops of your feet, your shins, and your sitting bones, and rest your hands for now on the tops of your thighs. And just with your hands gently on the tops of your thighs, go ahead and allow your eyes to close. But press down very gently into your thighs, just enough that you start to feel a little bit more length through your spine. And then once you feel that length through your spine, place one hand on your heart and place the other hand on top. And then start to breathe into your heart. Start to breathe through your heart. Start to imagine tuning into the wisdom of your heart. And if you can imagine placing your hand on the heart of someone who you love, it's a very intimate gesture, but we rarely do it for ourselves. So just take these first few moments of class and connect to your own heart chakra. And the literal translation of the heart chakra, the word is Anahata, and the literal translation is unstruck. Unstruck, which I looked up in the dictionary, and the first definition is unstuck. So we all know that we have, been hurt in our heart at different times in our life, and we've built somewhat of an armor around our heart. But with your hands here on your heart and on the safety of your yoga mat, and in the metaphor of hero's pose, so you are coming into your own version of hero, we can safely explore the softness and the vulnerability of our heart through the quality of our breath. And as you notice yourself bringing your breath through this chakra, we know that the science of it is that our heart is pumping that prana that we're breathing in, that life force energy, throughout our body. So there's that wisdom in our heart that's keeping us alive and keeping our life force moving. And then let's just take another 5 breaths together here. To open, and open your arms out wide like you were to give someone a hug, and feel as if as you stretch, you're stretching through the front of your body and the back of your body, so you're getting wider and broader both in the front and the back. And then bring your arms together in front, interlace your right thumb on top of your left thumb, invert your palms, and take a moment just to stretch the wrists and to feel the shoulder blades separating from one another. And And then as you inhale, slowly start to float your arms up, and don't be too concerned with how high they go, but as you float them up, see if you can keep drawing those front ribs in. Keep lifting up through the back ribs. And then if you glance up at your hands, try to make sure that the pinky side of your hand and your thumb side of the hand are both equally, parallel to the ceiling. Just take a few breaths. And as you take these breaths, think about elongating through the sides of your waist. So every inhale, you feel the sides of the waist lifting up, like getting longer, so there's more space between your rib cage and your pelvis. And as you firm your arms, you roll your triceps forward. And it might get a little bit uncomfortable, but you just keep breathing. And as you notice what comes up for you, see if you can just find your way to that next round of breath. One thing we know for sure is that everything eventually changes and nothing is forever. Good, so go ahead and release. Take your arms out wide again. You might wiggle your fingers, kind of release. And then see if you can get your wingspan to spread out even a little wider, imagining the inner seams of your arms as well as the outsides of your arms getting longer. Good, and then reach forward again. This time, cross your left thumb on top of your right thumb. Invert your palms and just take a moment to stretch the wrists. And then on your next inhale breath, slowly start to float your arms up above you. Really take your time as the arms go up, the front ribs go down and in, the back ribs lift up. And can you feel all four sides of your rib cage lifting up as you roll the triceps forward? Make your arms nice and strong and engaged. Allow your breath to do the work that your body won't do. So if you can't get your arms all the way straight, just keep breathing into that intention. Good, and then release. Take your arms out wide again. Wiggle your fingers again. Good, and then wrap your right arm on top of your left arm. Just give yourself a hug. Drop your chin down to your chest. And if you can grab a hold of your shoulder blades, imagine you could gently pull them apart from one another. And then breathe into the back of your heart. Good, and then inhale, open it up again and feel that width. And then give yourself a hug with your opposite arm on top. Walk your hands more towards the center of your back. Drop your chin into your chest. And imagine you could breathe your shoulder blades apart from one another. Great. And then on your next inhale breath, go ahead and open up your arms again. And as you exhale, just bring them down, and I put my strap really far away. Find your strap. And you're going to hold onto your strap with your hands a little bit wider than shoulder width apart, right? So if you hold them out in front of you, your arms kind of look a little bit like a V, not too much. Take your arms straight up above your head. And I want you to imagine you're doing a lat pull down. So squeeze your shoulder blades and bring your elbows in towards your waist. As you exhale, like cactus, good. And as you inhale, stretch your arms back up to the ceiling. Try to rip your strap in half. And as you exhale, bend your elbows, bring the strap behind your neck. Good, feel that engagement to the shoulder blade muscles. And inhale, send your arms back up to the top. One more time, exhale, bend your elbows, squeeze through your shoulder blades, lift through the crown of your head. Good, and inhale, send your arms back up. Good. Now you can take your hands a little bit wider. You'll find your sweet spot. Bring your hands down in front of you and try to keep your arms absolutely straight as you bring your arms up, around, and behind. So you might need to widen your grip on the strap if that was really difficult. Inhale up to the top. And exhale, bring your arms down in front of you. And just keep going to the tempo of your own breath. We're going to do this several times. Inhaling to the top. Exhaling down. And notice what your rib cage is doing as you go through this movement. Are you puffing those front ribs out? Can you continue to hug them in? So let's just do one more wherever you are. The next time your arms land in front of you. Good, so just take your, whatever hand is closer to the buckle, take that hand all the way to the buckle. Take the same wide grip, so you're in a V again, and take your arms straight up above your head. Now as you press your sitting bones down into your block, feel yourself growing a little bit taller. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, twist towards the right. Keep trying to pull your strap in half or apart. And then just breathe here and notice that spiraling action from the base of your pelvis. It's almost like you're a funnel with your arms wide and the two sitting bones trying to move towards one another. And then inhale back to the center. And as you exhale, twist towards the left. And think about that axis of your spine stacking straight up above those two sitting bones. Bring those two sitting bones together as close as you can and lift up through your torso as much as you can. Good, and then inhale back to the center and bend your left elbow. Yeah, bend your left elbow. And take your right hand and try to move your tricep towards the front. So you're externally rotating. And then reach your right arm out, reach around behind your back and catch your strap anywhere. Good. And then again, notice if your front ribs are puffing out. Try to broaden across your right collarbone. And keep trying to lift up through your top elbow. Continue to visualize bringing your two sitting bones in towards one another. Good, and then slowly release and bring your strap. You might want to take the buckle into the other side, all the way up, bend your elbow, and then use your other hand to wrap that outer arm towards the midline. And when you feel like you can hold that, reach your left arm around behind you, catch a hold of the strap, and see if you can broaden this collarbone. See if you can make it wider. Make sure that if your left shoulder is dipping forward, keep trying to move it back. Feel your shoulder blade landing flush to your rib cage. And then keep softening those front ribs and keep imagining that you could breathe into the back of your heart. So you can keep lifting up those back ribs off of your kidneys. Great. And then slowly release. And you can move your strap, move it kind of towards the front edge of your yoga mat so that it's accessible to you later. And move off of your blocks. So take both blocks on either side of you and set them up on the medium setting and come into a cross-legged position. So you're going to press down into your blocks and let your hips come up off of the floor. Move your shoulders away from your ears and just feel that work in your triceps. See if you can lift up through your sternum a little bit more and see if you can draw your belly button in towards your spine. Good, and then just lower yourself back down. So you're feeling the work of the shoulders moving away from the ears. So press into your blocks again. See if you can lift your hips up. Don't worry about lifting your ankles off of the floor just yet. Think about starting to draw your belly button in towards your spine so that it almost feels like your ankles are going to lift. It almost feels like you're going to curl your knees in towards your armpits, but not quite yet. Good. And then slowly lower it down. And so we'll do that one more time. And this time, if you want to lift everything up off of the floor, you can try. It might not happen. Don't worry about it. The most important thing is that you're activating the shoulders properly. So straighten your arms, shoulders away from the ears, top of the sternum lifts up. And start to think about curling your knees in towards your armpits, and maybe your legs will float up off of the floor. We'll just hold this for 3, 2, 1, and slowly lower it down. Move your blocks out to the side a little bit. Circle your arms up to the top. Big inhale. Good, and as you exhale, just fold forward and just notice what leg you have crossed in front. As you walk your fingertips forward, again, send your breath to the back of your body, to the back of your heart. And feel as if the back of your heart could translate that energy down your arms and into the floor. And from the floor, there's like a suction cup underneath your palms that's drawing that energy up and nourishing the back of your heart. Good, and then slowly walk your hands back in. Extend your legs out in front of you. Place the soles of your feet down. And you can turn your fingers either out to the sides or to face behind you. And as you inhale, lift your hips up off of the floor. Draw your shoulder blades closer together. Coming into reverse tabletop. Keep elongating your tailbone towards the back of your knees. Take one more inhale. And as you exhale, slowly release it back down. And then cross your other shin in front. Bring your blocks close to you again. And so don't think of this as an abdominal exercise, even though it kind of is. Think of it more as an exercise to teach you, even when you're pushing down, to bring the shoulders down. So we get the shoulders away from the ears. So start to press into your blocks, lift your hips up, move your shoulder blades down, lift the top of your sternum. And just hold that, feel the strength. And then slowly lower it back down again. And then do it again, press into the blocks, and from your foundation, feel the energy moving all the way through. Good, you guys. Looks awesome. And this time you can start to think about curling the knees in, but your ankles won't really leave the floor yet. You just start to engage your belly muscles. Good, and then slowly lower it back down again. And the last time, if you want to try to lift the legs up off of the floor, just make sure you get to the point where your shoulders are all the way away from your ears, and then you start to imagine the inner knees moving towards the armpits. And you hold for 3, 2, 1, and slowly let your hips come back down, move your blocks out to the sides. Inhale your arms up to the sky. And as you exhale again, fold forward. Send your breath once again into the back of your heart. And see if you can feel that circulation of energy from your heart through your arms and your hands and back up. From your hands through your arms and into the back of the heart. Anahata, unstruck. What does that mean for you? What can you unstick in your heart chakra? Slowly walk your hands back in. Step your feet out in front of you again. Any variation with your hands. And then start to lift your hips up off of the floor, elongating your tailbone. Draw your shoulder blades together so you're making a platform for your heart. And if you want to allow your head to drop back, that's fine. If you want to keep your chin tucked into your chest, that's also fine. Good, and then slowly lower it down. And just make sure you have both blocks towards the front of your mat. And come onto hands and knees. So as you come onto hands and knees, same like always, spread your fingers out nice and wide. Set your hands up directly underneath your shoulders, knees directly underneath the hips. And then start to move through a few rounds of cat and cow and see if you can exaggerate the movement in your thoracic spine. So it's as if your heart was leading the movement. Inhaling to lengthen, reaching your heart forward through the gates of your arms. And exhaling to round, lifting up and trying to bring the front of your heart all the way to the back of to the interior of your shoulder blades. And just take a couple of more rounds. Good. And then you're going to tuck your toes under. And you're going to hover your kneecaps just about a ½ inch off of the yoga mat. And then see if you can take cat and cow here. So you'll feel a lot more engagement to your belly muscles, like we kind of tapped into when we were doing the hip lifts. So let's do 3 rounds here. Feeling your heart reaching forward on that inhale. And feeling your heart lifting up into your shoulder blades on the exhale. Let's do it one more time. And then find your neutral spine and start to press your hips backwards, keeping your knees very bent. Keep lengthening the hips away from the hands, away from the shoulders. And with your knees really bent, imagine you could stretch the front of your yoga mat towards the front of the room. And then start to gently pedal out your feet. And as you're pedaling out your feet, just let your hands slide in slow motion forward towards the front of your mat. So you're lengthening out your downward facing dog. Good. And then come to the place where you're even, right? And walk your hands to the outsides of your yoga mat. Wrap your fingers around the outsides. So you're holding the outer edges of your mat. Try to rip your yoga mat in half. And then bend your elbows out to the side so the top of your skull moves down towards your yoga mat. Keep that. Swivel your elbows backwards. Your arms are still bent. And then imagine you could pull the yoga mat out from underneath you. So straighten your arms and try to pull the yoga mat forward as you press the top of your thigh bones towards the back of your thigh bones. Your heels magnetize down towards the floor. Whether they touch or not is inconsequential. Lift up all of your toes and spread out through your toes. And then relax the space where your neck and your shoulders come together. And then try to keep that sensation that you have in your upper back as you place your hands back in regular downward facing dog position. If that means for you that your index fingers are angled towards the front corners of your mat, that's a nice variation if you have a little bit of tighter shoulders. Good. And then on your next inhale breath, round your spine and make your way forward into a plank pose. And as you exhale, keep that little arch in your lower spine and reach your hips back into downward facing dog. So it's kind of like cat and cow. Inhale, round your spine. So your spine is kind of making like a wave shape and come forward into plank. And as you exhale, keep that little arch in your lower back, perhaps even bend your knees and press your hips back as far as you can. And then let's do that one more time. Lift up onto your toes. Roll your spine forward into that plank pose. And then press your hips back into downward facing dog. Good. And just take a few moments in this downward facing dog, rooting down into your inner palms, spinning your inner thighs towards the back wall. So you imagine dragging your pubic bone further and further away from your shoulders. Good. And then inhale your right leg straight back behind you. Hug that left hip in. Open up your right hip and let your leg drape open. Press your left heel down towards the floor. And start to circle your right knee or ankle or both around and around. Just find a little mobility through that hip. And then go the other way as well. Make sure you're not collapsing your left elbow, that you're still pressing down into the inner palms. And then extend that leg straight back behind you as you inhale. And as you exhale, bring your knee forward. Pause when you are in tiger pose. So curl your knee in towards your chest and push the floor away. And then step your foot between your hands and drop your back knee down. Slide your blocks in so that they are close. They're right in on either side of your right foot. Uncurl your toes. And as you inhale, take your arms up to the ceiling and imagine your pubic bone lifting up towards your navel and your tailbone moving down towards your towards the floor. Relax, soften through your inner upper shoulders. And then grab a hold of your left wrist, take a big inhale, and as you exhale, side bend towards the right. And imagine you could pour that breath down through the top of your left lung, all the way down into the bottommost lobe of your left lung. Good, and then inhale, take it back up to the top. And as you exhale, bring your hands down to the blocks And shift your hips backwards into a hamstring stretch. And imagine you could slide your right heel backwards. And at the same time, you imagine you could slide your right heel backwards. Imagine you could reach your sternum forwards a little bit more. Good. And then rebend your right knee, tuck your back toes under, lift your back knee up off of the mat. And think about elongating from the inseam of your left leg all the way through the torso, all the way out through the crown of the head. On your inhale, think about lifting up through the sternum. It's that same idea of reaching your heart through the gates of your arms. Good, and as you exhale, start to straighten your right leg. And fold forward towards that right leg. And just take a few moments here in the hamstring stretch. We'll be here later. Good. As you inhale, rebend your right knee. With your left hand on the block, move the block a little bit closer to your right foot and hug your inner thighs in towards the midline. Take your right fingertips behind your head and slowly start to revolve from the kidneys. Your left kidney turns down towards the yoga mat and your right lung opens up towards the ceiling. And then notice if you're kind of hanging out in that left shoulder, push the block away so you get a little engagement through your core, and then reach your right arm up to the sky. And you continue to hug that midline with your inner thighs. Slowly revolve your right hand back down. Just move your blocks aside. Place your hands down on the floor and step back into a plank pose. And as you come into this plank pose, imagine you were squeezing a beach ball between your forearms. Press your heels back against an imaginary wall. Supercharge the midline of your body. And then tip forward. So shift forward. And as you exhale, lower your belly all the way down to the mat. You might use your strap here. I'm going to reach back and interlace the fingers or use your strap. And set your gaze right at the front of your yoga mat. See if you can get your palms to touch if you are interlacing. And then see if you can get your inner elbows to move towards one another. Glue your pinky toenails down into the mat. And start to extend your arms at the same time you lift your chest. So it's like your arms are creating almost like this bow and arrow situation, pressing the shoulder blades into the front of the body. Notice if you are interlaced, which thumb you have on top. And then imagine you're squeezing a block between your inner thighs. Float your feet up off of the floor. Keep your gaze steady, shoulders away from the ears. And see if you can lift the top of your sternum just maybe a millimeter more. Good, and then as you exhale, release it down. Place your hands by your bottom ribs. Tuck your toes under and either make your way back through child's pose or through plank into downward facing dog. And then again, move your hands to the outsides of your yoga mat. So wrap your fingers around the outer edges of your mat, just like we did before. Bend your elbows out to the side so the top of your skull moves down towards the mat, and then swivel your elbows towards the back of the room. And then start to pull the yoga mat out from under you, elongating your arms and feeling the spreading of your shoulder blades. Good, and then walk your hands back to whatever regular downward facing dog position is your regular for today. Inhale your left leg up behind you. As you firm that outer right hip in, bend your left knee. Make sure you don't collapse into your right elbow. And start to make circles with your knee or your ankle or both. Circle the other way as well. And then find that line of extension from the midline of your body through the inseam of your left leg. Feel that lift to the front of your body as you come into three-legged dog. Good, and as you exhale, slowly shift forward towards tiger's pose. Push the floor away. Curl your knee in towards your chest. Curl your heel up towards your chest just a little more. Good, and then step your foot between your hands. Drop your back knee down. Slide the blocks in so they're right alongside on either side of your left foot. And as you inhale, take your arms up to the sky. So as you reach for the sky, can you soften your shoulder blades away from your neck? Imagining that you're pulling the yoga mat backwards with your left heel so you feel that hamstring engage. Grab a hold of your right wrist, take an inhale, and as you exhale, side bend towards the left. Pouring that breath from the top of your right lung down into the lowest lobe of your right lung. Good, and then inhale, take it back up to the top. And as you exhale, bring your hands down to the blocks, tuck your back toes under, and lift your back knee up off of the mat. And just take this moment to start to supercharge the midline of your body. As you supercharge through the midline, you're hugging your thighs against that imaginary skinny little pencil line and elongating forward with the very top of your sternum reaching forward through the gates of your arms. Right inner thigh spins up towards the ceiling. Take one more inhale. And as you exhale, start to straighten that left leg slowly. And observing what you need. Maybe it's different on this side than the other side. And then can you continue to hold that midline of your body? Keep spinning your right inner thigh back. Keep pressing down through the big toe of your left foot. And then always coming back to the breath and letting the breath work through anything that feels sticky or tight or sensitive. Go ahead, rebend your left knee. Stack that knee right on top of your ankle. Hug that midline as you spin your right inner thigh up, drawing the left outer hip crease in. Bring your left fingertips behind your head. And slowly start to revolve from the kidney. So the right kidney moves down towards the floor. The left kidney rolls up towards the ceiling. Notice if your left hip is coming along for the ride. So you picture that dowel through the center of your hips so that the twist is happening at your torso. When you feel ready, extend your left arm up to the sky. Make sure you're not collapsing into your right shoulder. And breathe here. Good, and then slowly release it down. You can move your blocks aside. Place your hands down on your yoga mat. Step your left foot back to meet your right. And again, think of that beach ball that you're squeezing between your forearms as you press your heels back against an imaginary wall. Think of the inner thighs continuing to revolve up towards the ceiling. And then pitch your body forward on your inhale. Super slow motion on your exhale. Lower your belly all the way down to the mat. Grab your strap if you need it. Uncurl your toes. Press the pinky toenails down into the floor. Reach your arms around behind your back and either interlace or use your strap. Opposite thumb on top as you did before. And then with your elbows bent, start to bring your inner elbows in towards one another. Press down through the tops of the feet so the quadriceps engage. Press the pubic bone down. And then start to straighten the arms so that the arms are like pressing the shoulder blades into the front of the body. Back of the neck stays long. And then when you're ready, start to float the legs up, but pretend you're squeezing that block between your inner thighs. The pubic bone stays pressing down, the belly button draws towards the spine. Good, take one more inhale. And as you exhale, release it down. Place your hands by your bottom ribs. Either transition back through child's pose or plank to your downward facing dog. And then separate your feet as wide as your yoga mat. And slowly start to walk your hands back towards your feet. Good. And then when you get there, turn your toes out 45 degrees. Bend your knees and lower your hips down into Malasana. And bring your hands together in front of your heart. Reminding yourself this is a heart chakra practice. So connecting to that energy, that wisdom of our heart. And then reach the left arm out to the left, spin the right arm up to the sky, and imagine you are inviting a ray of sunshine to move down from your right arm all the way down to feed into your heart. Good, slowly bring it back, bring your hands back together in front of your heart, reestablish that connection. And then reach the right arm out to the right and lift the left arm up. And it's like you're reaching for that ray of sunlight and letting it feed down into your heart. Good, and then slowly release it down. And lift up through the sides of the hips. Heel toe your feet so that they are hip distance apart. And then step your left foot behind your right foot so your pinky edges of your feet line up. Bend into your right knee a little bit more until you feel a stretch through your left outer leg. And then spin that left arm up to the ceiling. So you have this line of energy from your left fingertips down through your right hand. Good. Slowly release it down. Step your left foot back to the left-hand side of the yoga mat, and then step your right foot behind your left foot to the right foot to the left side of the yoga mat. It gets a little confusing. Bend that left knee a little bit more, and then open up through your right arm. Reaching for the ceiling. I'm feeling that same big wingspan we had when we were seated in hero's pose. Broadening not just across the chest, but across the shoulder blades as well. Good, and then slowly release it down and step your right foot back to the right-hand side of your yoga mat. With your fingertips on the floor or on your shins, as you inhale, reach your chest forward and feel the sides of the waist get long. See if you can get the top of the sternum to lift up just a little bit more. Making sure the hips are stacked on top of the ankles. Exhale, release it down. And then bring your hands to your hips and rise up with a long spine. And as you rise up, use your hands to steer the front of your pelvis up, your tailbone down. Good, you're gonna hold on to that. Circle your arms up to the sky. So there's a little bit of an engagement to your glutes. And then hold on to that so your front ribs don't splay out. Bend your elbows like cactus elbows. Remember that lat pull down situation we did in the beginning? Try to engage those muscles through the back without altering your posture. Good, and then inhale back up to the top. Allow your palms to touch. And exhale, bring your hands together in front of your heart. Just pause here. Lifting up through the crown of your head, spinning your inner thighs towards the back. And imagining you could make yourself grow taller simply by how much you press down into the soles of your feet. Good, and then release your hands and step to the front of your yoga mat. Feet are hip distance apart. Same posture, so the inner thighs spin backwards, and notice how that drags the tailbone down a little bit. The pubic bone moves towards the navel. Turn your palms forward and release your shoulders away from your ears and lift up through all four sides of your neck. And then begin your flow. Inhale, circle the arms, reach up to the sky. As you exhale, hinge from your hips, fold forward, long spine. Inhale, lift your chest, reaching through the sides of the waist. As you exhale, step your left foot to the back of the yoga mat and just pause there in the low lunge. If you need the blocks, they're there. Just take a moment here to feel that stretch. And then keep your hips nice and low. Slide your right foot back to meet your left. Squeeze that imaginary beach ball between your forearms. If you need to drop your knees for the first one, go ahead. Lower yourself halfway down. And as you inhale, baby cobra or upward facing dog. If you're coming into baby cobra, lengthen through the inseams of your legs. And then as you exhale, find your way back to downward facing dog. Keep lengthening the pubic bone away from the top of your head. So imagine that line just keeps getting longer and longer. Inhale your left leg up to the sky, straight back behind you. Keep hugging the right hip in towards the midline. And as you exhale, shift forward, curl your knee in towards your chest and step your foot between your hands. Pause right here in that low lunge. Imagine you could lift your belly away from your thigh any amount. And then step your right foot forward to meet your left. Make sure your feet are parallel. Inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, fold back in. As you inhale, circle the arms, reach all the way up, spinning your inner thighs towards the back wall. And as you exhale, bring your hands together in front of your heart. Reach your hands down, palms face open, and begin again. Inhale, scoop all of that energy up above you. And as you exhale, hinge from your hips, fold forward, long spine. Inhale, lift your chest. This time, step your right foot to the back of the yoga mat. Pause there. Just notice that transition, how it's a little bit different. And then keeping your hips nice and low, slide your left foot back to meet your right. Squeeze that imaginary beach ball between your forearms as you press your heels back, engaging your legs and the entire front of your body. As you exhale, knees down or up, lower halfway down for chaturanga. As you inhale, baby cobra or upward facing dog. If you're taking upward facing dog, the shoulders move away from the ears. The shoulder blades try to reach into the front of the body. The pubic bone tries to lift up towards the navel. And then as you exhale, take your hips up and back into downward facing dog. So remember all of the times the 2 times that we grabbed the outer edges of the yoga mat, what that felt like in your shoulders. And if you need to do it again, you're more than welcome to do it again. But it's really the idea of pressing down through the inner palms, but trying to spin the eyes of the biceps up towards the ceiling and feeling that spreading between your shoulder blades. Inhale your right leg straight back behind you. Keep hugging that left hip in towards the midline. As you exhale, shift forward, curl your knee in towards your chest, lift your heel up towards your tush, and step your foot between your hands and just be here for a moment. Think about if you could lift your belly off of your right thigh, but keep firming your right outer hip in as you spin your left inner thigh up towards the ceiling. Good, and then step your left foot forward to meet your right. As you inhale, find that length through your spine, lifting up your heart. And as you exhale, folding back in. And as you inhale, circle your arms, reach all the way up. Feel your inner thighs spin towards the back of the room. And keep that posture as you exhale, bring your hands together in front of your heart. One more time, reach your hands down, palms facing open, and feel all of that width across your collarbones. And then inhale, circle your arms, reach all the way up. And as you exhale, hinge and fold forward, long spine. Inhale, lift your chest. And as you exhale, make your way back to chaturanga, however you'd like to. So you can step, you can walk, you can jump. Making your way breath by breath through your vinyasa and using every single posture as an opportunity to check in, as an opportunity to be present, as an opportunity to not just go through a routine, but to make it a ritual, something that has a great deal of presence to it. Inhale your right leg straight back behind you as you do hug your left hip in towards the midline. As you exhale, shift forward, curl your knee in towards your chest, and step your foot between your hands. You're going to seal the outer edge of your left foot down, and you're going to take a block and slide it to the outside of your left ankle. And then cartwheel your arms open and rise up into warrior two. So check your alignment. Your knee is stacked on top of your ankle. Your knee is tracking over the second and third toe, which means that you have to hug that right hip underneath you. Your arms are extended, and just like in the beginning, you want to make your wingspan as big as you can, and feel that your torso is stacked right above the center of your pelvis. Good, now interlace your hands behind your back, let's say right thumb on top of the left. And as you send your knuckles down, square your shoulders and your belly towards the front. Look at your knee and make sure it didn't take a dive in. That often happens. So you keep pressing your knee towards the outside. Good. And then with your hands interlaced, you start to shift forward. So you really want to elongate through that right side of your body. Keep rolling your left shoulder back. Feel that twist as you press into the outer edge of your left foot. Good, and then release the interlace. Place your right hand down on the block and press your right outer knee into your right elbow. And take your left arm up towards the ceiling. side angle pose. Good, and then turn your palms so that it's facing the front of the room and reach your left arm as far out of your left leg as you can. So you're creating this huge line of energy through that left side of the body. Every inhale, imagine you could make that line grow longer from the outer left foot through the left fingertips. Every exhale, imagine that you could revolve the left ribs back a little bit more, the right ribs down towards the floor. Good, and then inhale, take your left arm straight back up towards the ceiling. On your exhale, press into the mound of your right big toe and straighten your right leg. So we're coming into triangle from here. If you want to flip your block to the higher setting so that you get a little bit more ability to engage your torso, that might not be a bad idea. And then really think about your foundation. So as you press into the mound of your right big toe, you hug your outer right shin in. It's like a ribbon of energy lifting up your leg and deepening the crease of your right hip. And in your left leg, it's like you're trying to press your left heel towards the back of the mat. So you're thinking of if you had like a flipper and you could press your left heel in that same rotation. And then turn your left hand so that it faces behind you. And drop your hand behind your back or to find your hip crease. Rolling that left shoulder open. Take a few breaths here and imagine the triangle. You could lift the top of the triangle up. You could lift your pubic bone up, lengthening through both legs. Great, and then you're gonna bend your right knee, and if you need to slide your back foot in a little bit, you can. Move the block about 8 inches forward of your pinky toe. And float your left leg up into Ardha Chandrasana, pressing energetically through that left foot. Engage your left inner thigh so much so that if I came along and pushed on your leg, it wouldn't go anywhere. And then keep with your left hand on your hip, keep encouraging that right hip to hug back towards the midline. So you can use your fingers to give a little gentle pressure there. Good. Lift your left arm back up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, circle that arm down. Find your other block and place your block, both blocks parallel in front of your yoga mat. And revolve your left inner thigh up towards the ceiling so you're neutralizing into a supported warrior three. As you come into this warrior three, imagine you could pull the blocks backwards, reach your chest forward. Really strong engagement as you hug that outer right hip in and spin the left inner thigh up. Good, and then slowly start to bend your right knee and reach your left leg back. Slide your blocks back so they're on either side of your right foot. And we're back in that hamstring stretch again, pyramid pose. So find the midline of your body. Keep trying to spin that left heel out towards the left. Keep trying to hug that right hip in towards the midline and then see if you can lift the pelvic floor up a little bit more. Press into your blocks, lift your chest halfway up. Bring your hands to your hips and inhale, rise the rest of the way up. Good. So you're trying to bring that left hip forward, extend your arms out to the sides, palms facing behind you. And then choose your variation. You can either clasp your opposing elbows, press your knuckles together, or bring your hands to reverse namaskar in the center of your back. So if you find reverse namaskar, try to wiggle your fingertips up a little higher between your shoulder blades. Broaden your collarbones, soften your front ribs in, take an inhale. And as you exhale, long spine, folding forward, Parsvottanasana. So from the inseam or the big toe side of your right foot, you're elongating that line. Good, and then press into the mound of your right big toe. Rise all the way back up. Release your arms and circle them all the way up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, bend your right knee. Bring your hands down to the blocks. And drop your back knee down to the floor. Good. And then bend your left heel towards your tush. Reach your right arm around and back and catch a hold of that ankle if it's available. And think about opening up through your right collarbone. You can kind of negotiate the stretch between your quadricep and your shoulder. Good, and then release. Find your strap. Just throw your strap over your left shoulder for a second. Lift your back knee up off of the floor and seal the outer edge of your left foot down. You can line up heel to heel or perhaps a little bit wider. So your left toes are facing the left front corner of your yoga mat. And then rise up into warrior one. So you're still trying to spin that left inner thigh towards the back. You're going to take your strap, buckle side, and your left hand, take it up towards the ceiling. Roll your left tricep towards the center line and bend your left arm behind your back, and then reach your right arm around behind and find your strap again. Now notice if you're puffing those front ribs out. Can you draw the front ribs and lift up through the back ribs? Good, and then slowly start to shift forward, pivoting onto the ball of your back foot and floating up into warrior three with your hands in Gomukhasana. Keep spinning that left inner thigh up. Keep pressing back through your left heel. Last breath. Start to bend your right knee, reach your left leg way to the back of the yoga mat, and come back up into an upright posture, suctioning your front ribs in and lifting your back ribs up. Good, and then release your strap, move it off to the side. Inhale, bring your arms back up towards the ceiling, and exhale, bring your hands down to the floor, step back, and take it through a vinyasa or not. And as you come into downward facing dog, just allow yourself to recalibrate. Inhale your left leg straight back behind you. Hug the right hip in towards the midline. As you exhale, shift forward, curl your knee in towards your chest. Pause for a second there, push the floor away, and step your foot between your hands. Bring your block to the outer edge of your left foot. Seal your right foot down on its edge. So you have heel to arch alignment, and rise up into warrior two. Just take a moment and check out your warrior two. So you want to think of a conveyor belt from the inseam of your left leg, moving around the front of your knee and connecting into your left outer hip. So imagine that there was a belt there and you could tighten that belt. Reach out through your wingspan, make it nice and wide. And then interlace your hands behind your back, left thumb on top of the right thumb. Square your shoulders and your belly towards the front. Check out your left knee, make sure it didn't take a dive in. So you can even use your wrists to press that left hip under you a little bit more. And then start to shift forward. Start to really think of that line of energy from your right inner thigh through the center of your rib cage. Continue to spin the left ribs down, the right ribs back. Lean your head back against an imaginary wall behind you. And then place your left hand down on the block. Press your outer left knee into your left elbow and take your right arm up to the sky. Turn your palm to face the front of the room, and then from the pressure of your back right foot, reach out through your right fingertips. And then notice what's happening in your left shoulder. Can you imagine you're pulling that block backwards so your shoulder blade moves down your back? Continue to spin those left ribs under, right ribs back. On your inhale, take your arm back up to the ceiling. And on your exhale, press into the mound of your left big toe and straighten your left leg, moving into triangle pose. So you want to think of, as you deepen the crease of your left hip, your right front hip tries to roll down as you press into the outer edge of that right foot. Hug the outer left shin in. Turn your palm palm to face behind you. Bring your hand behind your back. Maybe find your hip crease, or if you don't find your hip crease, just imagine that you could magnetize that hip crease backwards a little bit more. Stacking the right shoulder on top of the left. You bend your left knee, look forward, move your block out in front. You can make sure they're both kind of moved out in front, but move your block out in front, shorten your stance if you need to, and float up into Ardha Chandrasana. And so it's like every single cell and molecule of your body is participating. We're circulating our awareness through every muscle, every bone, every organ, if we can, even our skin. Hugging that left hip in, keeping that right inner thigh facing down towards the floor. As you're ready, extend your right arm up and get that huge wingspan again between your arms. And then revolve your right hand down to the other block, so you have your block set up parallel to the front of your mat. And feel all of that rotation as you spin your right inner thigh up. That left hip continues to hug back. Pull backwards on your yoga block so that your chest can move forward a little bit more. And breathe. And then slowly start to bend your left knee. Reach your right leg back behind you. Land heel to heel or a little bit wider, and slide your blocks in so that they're on either side of your left foot. And then straighten your left leg again. Pyramid pose. Check out your alignment in your feet. So it's like your right foot is trying to spin, your heel is trying to spin out towards the outer edge of your mat. But in your left foot, you're trying to press into that mound of your left big toe so much that you're creating a line of energy from there. And then bring your hands to your hips. And inhale, rise up. Take a moment to reset. So right inner thigh spinning back. You're encouraging that right front hip to roll forward. Extend your arms out to the sides. Get that huge wingspan. And then bring your hands behind your back. Any variation. Broaden through the collarbones. Broaden through the elbows. Imagine you could suction up and suction your belly up like a scoop, like hollowed out. And then as you start to fold forward, keep your front body strong to support the back of your body. Keep your shoulder blades squeezing towards one another. If you have your hands in reverse namaskar, try to press your palms together. Spine up halfway. Bring your hands to the blocks. Bend into your left knee. Pull your right foot backwards a little bit more, and then drop your back knee down to the floor. Bend your right heel towards your tush. Reach your left arm back and catch a hold of your ankle. And then see if you can negotiate. How can you stretch both things at the same time? And if you need your strap, you have it. You can hook that foot. Just make it a little easier on yourself. Good. And then go ahead and release that. Throw the strap over your right shoulder. Lift your back knee up off of the mat. Seal the outer edge of your right foot down. You can go heel to heel or a little wider with the right toes facing the right front corner of your mat. And then as you inhale, rise up to warrior one. And then find your strap on your right shoulder. Take your arm up to the sky, holding the belt of the buckle of the strap. And roll your right tricep towards the front. And then drop your arm behind your back. Reach the left arm out. Reach your hand behind your back. Find the strap. Take a moment to make sure all four sides of the rib cage are even, so the front ribs are not puffing out. The left collarbone is nice and open. And then start to shift it forward, like you could point your right elbow into the front of the room, revolve to the ball of your back foot, and find that stability to float that right leg up from the inseam of your right leg. How long can you make your spine? How much can you draw the left outer hip back and elongate out from your pelvic floor? Nice, you guys. And then slowly start to bend your left knee, reach your right leg way back behind you, lift back up into that vertical position. Front ribs soften in. Release your strap, just place it off to the side. Inhale your arms back up to the ceiling. And as you exhale, bring your hands down. Move the block to the side. And take it to downward facing dog, however it makes sense for you to get there. And then from your downward facing dog, see if you can lower both forearms down at the same time. So your arms can be parallel, but if that's super uncomfortable, interlace your fingers and walk your toes in a little bit closer, pressing down into the forearms, lifting up out of the shoulders, and continuing to lift the pubic bone up and up and up and up. Awesome. And then walk your toes backwards, coming into plank on your forearms. Same idea with pressing your heels back against an imaginary wall, trying to reach your sternum towards the front of the mat, and breathing into the back of the heart. And then just melt your lower body down, slowly coming into a Sphinx pose. So as you come into that Sphinx, imagine you could pull your yoga mat backwards, get taller through the sternum, press your shoulder blades to the front of the body. Good, and then lower yourself all the way down. This time you're gonna reach both arms forward, like you're karate chopping the floor. Press down into the toenails, particularly the pinky toenails, and start to float your upper body up as you press your pubic bone down. And then float your toes up as well, but think of the inner thighs lifting. Press the pubic bone down a little bit more vigorously. Take one more inhale. And as you exhale, lower it down. Make a little pillow for your head. Bend your knees, windshield wiper your knees from side to side. And then keep your knees bent. Press the heels up towards the ceiling. Reach your arms back and catch a hold of your ankles. You can always go back to Shalabhasana if this is not working for you today. And then start to think about lifting your thigh bones up off of the floor and let that peel your chest up away from the floor as well. Shoulder blades move in towards one another and also towards the front of the body. Feeling the shoulders open, feeling the upper spine open, feeling the hip flexors open. See if you can float the legs up a little higher. Take one more inhale. And as you exhale, release it down. Make another pillow for your forehead with your opposite hand on top. And windshield wiper your legs from side to side. And then last time, Dhanurasana. So feel like your very center of your thigh bones are pressing down into the floor. But then start to float them up without changing the angle. So without letting the inner legs, the knees splay out from one another. Get that lift first. Then reach around and catch a hold of your ankles. And then see if with your ankles you can lift your thigh bones off of the floor a little bit more, pressing your shins back to peel your chest open. Take one more breath and release. Let it go. Extend your legs, extend your arms. Really explore the length of your body from fingertips to toes. Good, and then roll all the way over onto your back. And as you come onto your back, find your block. Lift your hips up, slide the block underneath the small of your back, meaning the bony part, the sacrum, right? Not the lower back, not the muscly part. And you can set it up on any setting that you like. And then draw one knee in towards your chest and draw the other knee in towards your chest. And extend both legs up towards the ceiling. Let your arms rest by your sides. Move your shoulder blades in and up, so you're like lifting your heart up. So you're lifting up through the mid-back. Make sure you're not sagging down in the mid-back. There's all of this energy reaching up through the big toes, through the balls of the feet. Just let this posture recirculate that energy back down to your heart. Good. Bend one knee in, then the other. Drop one heel down. Then the other. Lift your hips up off of the block. Slide the block out from underneath you. And slowly lower vertebrae by vertebrae all the way back down towards the floor. Extend the arms out to the sides. Nice wide wingspan. Cross your right thigh bone over your left. And shimmy your hips a little to the right. Let your knees descend towards the left. And let yourself just breathe into this shape. Imagining the breath moving through that heart chakra and distributing that prana, that life force, to every single place you feel sensation in your body right now, and the places you don't. When you're ready, on your time, make your way back to the center. Switch the cross of your legs. Shimmy your hips off to the side. Let your knees descend towards the right. You can gaze towards the left. Feel your wingspan getting wider and wider and wider across the front and the back of your body. And then your own timing, you can stay longer if you need to. Bring it back to the center. Hug both knees in towards your chest. Cross your ankles. Just hug yourself in nice and tight. Good, and then just release halfway. Cross your opposite ankle on top. And then hug everything in nice and tight again. So really feel the front of your body contracting, the back of your body stretching. Take a big breath in. And as you exhale, find your way into Shavasana or seated meditation, wherever you'd like to complete your practice. Wherever you are completing your practice, place your hands back on top of your heart again. Anahata, Unstruck. All of the wisdom and the compassion and the empathy that exists in your heart is now being moved on that flow of prana through all the little nooks and crannies of your body. So see if you can just receive. Remember the last time you felt truly open-hearted, a true sense of love and openness. And practice that here in Shavasana. Practice that loving kindness towards yourself. Let yourself be here. So the theme of the rest of our day is loving kindness. And how can we extend loving kindness to ourselves and to those we encounter, and to those that we even think about, even come to our mind, even if they're people we don't generally hold loving kindness towards. If we can find that in our heart, if we can find that softening, it creates a place where we can connect, where that might not have existed before. So when you're ready, imagine that your heart is moving that energy, that prana, throughout your body. Maybe stretch your arms back or out, whatever feels good. Stretch your legs forward. And imagine you could energize and invigorate every cell and muscle of your body with that loving kindness. And then hug your knees in towards your chest and let this moment be a metaphor for holding yourself in that loving kindness, in that space. When you're ready, roll over onto your right hand side and press yourself to a seated position. Keep your eyes closed. And place one hand on your heart, place the other hand on top. Just imagine you are sharing your caring. Just feel what this gesture feels like. Breathing into your hands. Now bring your hands together in front of your heart. Let your thumbs gently rest on your sternum. Bow your forehead down to the wisdom of your heart and imagine gratitude was just bubbling up from the bottom chambers of your heart all the way up into your mind. And so that heart-mind connection, we hold on to it as we move through the day. Allowing your eyes to open. Namaste.